Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. It's time for the final episode this year of Time Capsule. This is that series where I show you pretty much my personal history of rock and roll by showing you my favorite albums from my database, my collection of about 6,000 albums that I have. And I choose a year and I show you the highlights of that year, my favorite albums, and then I end it with like the top 10. And these are the videos that are available. If you go to playlists, you can go to favorite albums by year, time capsule. There will be now 26 videos. Those are the years that are available. And we are going to be doing today 2015 because it's 2025. So this year in January, I did 65, 75, 85, 95, 2005, and now 2015. So I hope you're enjoying the series. Now what happens is the newer videos, the later it gets, you're going to pretty much see less and less albums. Although 2005 surprisingly was a really big year. There are years where I have 150, 160 albums that came out that year. In 2015, 10 years ago, I only owned 45 albums that came out that year. And out of those 45, I'm going to show you 32 of my favorites. Now, some of them are going to be like compilations box sets, so it's really even less than that if you think about it. But the obvious reason why, from my age group, I'm born in 63, my sweet spot is like late 60s, 70s, early 80s. So the bands that I love that are in my DNA, obviously they're older. They don't release a lot of new albums and stuff like that. So it makes total sense. All right, out of the 45 albums I own in 2015 that came out in 2015, I'm going to show you 32 in alphabetical order, and then I'm going to end it with my favorites. In alphabetical order, this is not an essential one, but I thought it was kind of interesting. This is John Anderson and Jean-Luc Ponty and the Anderson Ponty Band. This is a live album, and it's called Better Late Than Ever, and it's interesting. I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world, but I have gotten into jazz over the years, and the fact of the matter is I thought it was pretty kind of a cool set list and an interesting idea. And John Anderson certainly is not afraid to do different things, and that's another one that he did. So John Anderson will do that. Antigone Rising is a band I talk about a lot. This is an EP called Whiskey and Wine, Volume 2, and this is the latter-day Antigone Rising, and they're a really, really good band. Country rock on this one. She actually autographed it for me. And this is an EP. There's only 5 tracks on it, but it's a good collection. I actually got it from the band. What else? Blackberry Smoke. This is a good one. Not my favorite albums of the year, but Holding All the Roses. They're just a really southern, a really good, consistent southern rock band that I really love. I love the fact that they're holding the fort, so to speak, and just continuing to release good new music that's in that southern rock vein. In fact, they're going to be playing locally in the near future. Blackmore's Night, band that I loved in the beginning, but then, at least for me, as much as I like them, it's kind of diminishing returns because their music becomes very similar. The album they did that year was called All Our Yesterdays, and like if you didn't know them and you started with this album, it's probably good, really good. But for me, it's just another good Blackmore's Night album. It was not a big hit for me. They do a cover of Moonlight Shadow on this album. They typically tend to do like a good cover on every album, but definitely not essential. This one, I barely remember at this point. This is Blur, and their album, The Magic Whip, came out in 2015, and I liked it, but it didn't grab me. The artwork is, do I have a special edition of this? Let me know, guys. There's like no English on this album, and I appreciate artisticness, but even in the booklet, it's like, I had to remember The Magic Whip is the name of it, because it's like, it doesn't say it anywhere. This whole booklet is like... they're an artistic band. What can I tell you? Damon Albarn and Blur. But The Magic Whip came out in 2015. Not a favorite album of mine of theirs, but it was good. Bob Dylan put out that Shadows in the Night covers album. The critics trip over themselves to say everything Bob Dylan does is pretty much the greatest thing. Wasn't for me. I just don't think, his voice is Bob Dylan now. But I love Bob Dylan's voice, but the latter day Bob Dylan's voice is really an acquired taste, so to speak. So I don't know. I never listened to it. He did release a great bootleg series that year, The Best of the Cutting Edge, which is 1965 to 1966. And this is the 2 CD set. There is a huge box set version of this. But, this is the greatest running archive series going. The bootleg series of Bob Dylan, they're doing an incredible job. Love it. No Gallagher and the High Flying Birds, they released Chasing Yesterday. And it's a really good album. I'm a big fan of Noel Gallagher. I actually love his voice. And, not that I don't love Liam Gallagher's voice. This is a deluxe edition of it with 2 discs in it and a beautiful booklet and a hardback case with the covering. Good release, for sure, from Noel Gallagher. This was when the Grateful Dead were doing their farewell, and it was the biggest concert of all time, and they were playing at that stadium, and people in Chicago at Soldier Field, people were traveling all over the world to see them because they were never going to play again. And this is with Trey Anastasio. This was the Fare Thee Well, and this was a best of that show, 2 discs. And that was 10 years ago, and 10 years later, they are still touring the world. I'm not going to comment on it. All right, Wishbone Ash. This is a box set called Roadworks, and this was a nice collection of 4 live discs. It was reasonably priced, and came with a booklet, and you had Live in Germany, like that, and you had Live at the Grand. So this is kind of a cool set. Live in Hamburg, and Live at AshCon in 2014. So 4 live shows in a nice clamshell box with a booklet, and really good set. This is the latter day Wishbone Ash. This is the Andy Powell Wishbone Ash. He has single-handedly kept the band going, so it is Wishbone Ash. But it doesn't grab me like the classic Wishbone Ash, but it's a good set. While I'm talking about interesting box sets, this is a cool one. Bill Wyman put out White Lightning, the solo box, and this was 4 of his solo albums, the classic ones, if I guess you would say. Monkey Grip, Stone Alone, Bill Wyman, that had that hit single, CC, Jujutsu, and Rockstar, and Stuff, which was only released actually in Japan, and now you can get it in this box. Same thing, nice clamshell box, and you get a really, really thick booklet with memorabilia, lyrics, everything about each album. This was a beautifully done, promotional material in there. This is a great box set, and then you get each album. Monkey Grip, Stone Alone, Bill Wyman, that's the one that had the hit. That's a really good Bill Wyman album. And Stuff, which was rare. And then they threw in this thing, which is really cool. And this is a DVD of promotional video, interview, promo videos, and TV clips. And BBC and stuff like that. This was really nice to have. This was a really well done set that Bill Wyman put out. And glad I have it. Again, it's called White Lightning, the solo box. I don't know if this is still available, but if you want to investigate Bill Wyman, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but I like Bill Wyman. So if you like him, it's definitely great to have. We'll stick you over there. The hell with that Dead release. All right, let's keep going, shall we? We shall. Let's see if that folds. All right, 2015, we actually went to London, and that was the year the Rolling Stones were doing their exhibitionism. So we went to London, we saw the Stones exhibitionism, but we also saw their version of Broadway. I guess they call it the West End. There was actually a show at the time about the Kinks called Sunday Afternoon, and we went to see that show in the West End. This is the soundtrack album, 2 CDs, and it focused on the early history of the Kinks. So we put that family trip together because it made total sense. We knew this show would never, ever play in, the United States, and we got to see the Stones exhibitionism, which actually also came over to the States later on. Let's keep going. Mark Knopfler, he put out Tracker, another fine album, kind of like that Blackmore's Night kind of analogy. That I love the Mark Knopfler, but his solo records became very samey, and this is one of those that's really good, but it certainly didn't stand out for me like some of the other albums. So I look back on it now, and I'd be hard pressed to think what was on there. Shelby Lynn put out I Can't Imagine, another fine album from her. I am definitely a fan. She's the real deal, and that was another fine album. Didn't go top 5 for me, but it was good. We'll stick you over there, Shelby. I'm a big fan of Marshall Tucker Band, and they put out a really cool live one called Live in the UK from 1976. Yeah, this is an archive release, but Marshall Tucker was one of the rare occasions where you had a southern rock band in America playing over in the UK and doing, decently. So that was pretty cool. When I was in the UK in 2015, I saw the Stones and the Kinks show, but I stopped into some record stores and I found a Mostly Autumn album. I remember getting this there, Box of Tears. And this is actually a live album of their previous album called Dressed in Voices. So they're a progressive band, unknown pretty much here in the United States, and maybe at this point relatively unknown over in the UK, although they play in the UK a lot. They're a fine band. I am a fan. This was a latter-day version of Mostly Autumn, but really good band. Heather Finley was no longer in the band at that time. Renaissance released a great archive concert called the Academy of Music 1974. I've done videos on Renaissance, their whole discography, and this was a great archive release if you love that band. Keith Richards did not make the top albums of the year for me, but he actually put out a new album that year called Cross-Eyed Heart. And frankly, the album didn't do much for me. I love the Stones, my favorite band. They're in my DNA, and I love Keith Richards. But I got to be honest, this album did not do much, and I'm looking at it now. I'd be hard-pressed to tell you what the hell's on this thing. Cross-Eyed Heart, yeah, I was pretty disappointed overall. I mean, it does have some great songs on this album, but overall, it's the weakest, in my opinion, by far, of his solo records, and there's really not a huge amount of solo records that he's done. So Keith Richards, Cross-Eyed Heart. There was a great archive release from the Stones that year. This is a bootleg of it because they didn't officially release it as an official release. This was a download, and I paid a bootlegger to get it on CD. It did come in the deluxe edition of Sticky Fingers. Get Your Leads Lungs Out is a legendary Stones bootleg, and they did not release a hard copy of it, unfortunately. But this is a great live recording of the Stones in their heyday with Mick Taylor. Squeeze put out Cradle to the Grave, a really fine record. Cool artwork, too. They're a really good band. I remember seeing them. They got popular in the United States, and especially in the Northeast, they did pretty good. They actually played Madison Square Garden once, which was a shocker, but good band. I decide to try new stuff every once in a while, and at that time, people were like, oh, you got to try this guy, Chris Stapleton, and he's a really popular country artist, and I decided to try one of his albums called Traveler, and thought it was okay. I'm more of a southern rock guy than country. There is a difference. The country music to me is a bit more polished and not as much as from the heart like southern rock. So he was okay. This was okay as well. Pete Townsend put out Classic Quadrophenia. Quadrophenia is my favorite Who album. It's in the top 5 of my favorite albums of all time, and it's so symphonic. It's such a big production, and I saw the Who perform live with an orchestra couple of years ago, and they played a lot of Quadrophenia. It was amazing. So I was looking forward to this release, but unfortunately it didn't really work for me. It's a classical version of Quadrophenia to a large extent, and now I'm going to stick with the Who version. Martin Turner, who is the original I guess you could say, leader of Wishbone Ash. He was certainly the main creative writer and main singer to a certain extent of Wishbone Ash. He finally came back and put out a solo record of studio material, and it was called "Written in the Stars," and it was good. Wasn't great, but it was good to have him back. And always interesting, there's a war between Martin Turner and Wishbone Ash, Andy Powell, lawsuits, and Martin Turner lost, I guess, everything, really, financially took a beating. But as just a fan who loves Wishbone Ash, I'm certainly open to music from both sides, and that was Martin Turner's side. That was that. Steven Wilson, he put out Hand Cannot Erase. Fine album from Steven Wilson. Very enjoyable. I'm a fan of Porcupine Tree, and I'm a fan of Steven Wilson. I don't love everything he does, but I like him. And that was a good release. Bill Wyman finally put out a new studio record. I showed you that box set over there. And the studio record he put out was called Back to Basics. Cute name, Basics. And it was fine. You got to be a big Bill Wyman fan to love this album. I did not love it, but, I was glad he put it out, and I thought it was good. He did he likes to do every once in a while stuff that he's done before. Stuff Can't Get Enough is on here again, and 17, which was originally on the Bill Wyman album, he did again, and I'll Pull You Through is on here again, and that was originally on Monkey Grip. So, essential? No, but it was good. Now, what else am I going to show you? I am going to show you the top 5 albums of the year from 2015. At number 5 is a live record from Ian Hunter and the Rant Band from live in the UK. Ian Hunter, I have talked about him in my videos. Everybody talks about Bob Dylan and blah, 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 blah. Ian Hunter has been in a golden patch, for lack of a better phrase. His newest albums over the last decade or 2 decades, or a decade or so, have been extraordinarily great, amongst the best of his career. Really, he is on such a roll. And this live album with the Rant Band, a great band, was after he put out Shrunken Heads and Man Overboard. And you get some new songs on here. You get incredible live versions of a lot of classics. This is a great live record. So if you like Ian Hunter and you're not familiar with him live with the Rant Band, live in the UK, is a good one. Great one. Number 4 for me was David Gilmour's Rattle That Lock. That was his new album at that time. Songs that he writes with his wife, Polly Sampson. People like to make fun of the fact that he's not a great lyricist. I don't care. He's got his wife, and she's a fine lyricist, so what the hell? And one thing he knows how to do is put together a really good album. This is a deluxe box set, which comes with the CD and a DVD with footage and videos, and I tend to go for that, and came with a really nice hardcover book here with beautiful pictures. And then there's another book in here about Paradise Lost from John Milton. They know Pink Floyd and Gilmour and Waters. They know how to put together a package to get you to pay up. They even came with a little guitar plectrum in here, little one, and books and posters and whatever else, and then the CD and the DVD. The most important thing, of course, is the music, and I thought the music was good. He's melodic, and I'm a melodic kind of a guy. I love his guitar playing. There's a bunch of instrumentals, 3 instrumentals on this album. Title track was great. A Boat Lies Waiting. You got Crosby and Nash doing backup. There's a song on there. What was it called? Today. Today is a real funky number. It's a really good record from David Gilmour. And job well done, David. That was 10 years ago. Rattle That Lock, number 4. Number 3, well, that was Jason Isbell and his album called Something More Than Free. I loved it. It came 2 years after Southeastern, which was the first Jason Isbell solo record that really grabbed me. I was like, this guy is unbelievable. Now, I was a fan of Jason Isbell from Drive-By Truckers. He was my favorite part. And in fact, when he left Drive-By Truckers, I pretty much lost interest in them and just went with Jason Isbell. And he has not disappointed. This was my number 3 album of the year. It's something more than free and a terrific album. I mean, this is just a lot of great stuff on here. So highly recommended. The number 2 album of the year for me, well, that was a surprise for me and probably a surprise for you. Don Henley put out his first solo record in 15 years called Cass County, and that was named after the county in Texas where he grew up. He did it with Stan Lynch, who was the drummer of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Very talented guy as well. And a lot of duets on this album. This album's got a big cast of people with him. Bramble Rose had Mick Jagger on there. For instance, Miranda Lambert was on there. Merle Haggard was on Cost of Living, I think that was the name of it, if I remember right. Dolly Parton was on here, one of these tracks. There is just a lot of really good songs on here. I was shocked how much I love this album, but I am open-minded, and I like the Eagles. I have every Eagles album, but I don't ever think of them as a favorite band. But I was blown away by how much I played that album. Cass County from Don Henley, my number 2 album of the year. What was my number 1 album of the year? By far was the Waterboys. Mike Scott put out an album called Modern Blues. Here in the United States, he gets no publicity, and I thought the cover was really strange looking, and I didn't know if I was going to like it or not, but I've grown to become a really big fan of the Waterboys and Mike Scott, and this album blew me away. In fact, Don Henley's album, Cass County, was recorded in Nashville. This album was also recorded in Nashville. Something is in the water in Nashville at that time because I love this Waterboys album, Modern Blues. It's just great. Destiny's Entwined, November Tale. So many great songs on there. I Can See Elvis. Just Beautiful Now. And then it ends with this 10-plus minute epic called Long Strange Golden Road, which is like an odd song, but it also grabbed me. I love this album. My number 1 album of the year by far is The Waterboys and Modern Blues. That was number 1. So we got Modern Blues number 1. Number 2, Don Henley, Cass County. Number 3, Something More Than Free from Jason Isbell. And those are the top 3. Number 4, Live in the UK from Ian Hunter and the Rant Band. And some other highlights as well. 2 other box sets came out in 2015 that are pretty good. No, they're not pretty good. One of them is amazing, and that's the Bruce Springsteen, The Ties That Bind, the River Collection. I have done videos on Bruce Springsteen. I'm not going to unbox this and go through it. There is a video. If you go, there's a playlist called Favorite Box Sets. You'll see one just on this box. Bruce Springsteen's done an incredible job on his box sets. This one, The Promise from the River, from Darkness on the Edge of Town. This is the River Collection. This is an incredible box set. Came out in 2015. This one's good. This is The Who live in Hyde Park. I did a video on this one as well that you can see in Favorite Box Sets. This is a good one. It's a good performance. Not great. This is spectacular. So there you have it, guys. My top albums from 2015. The final time capsule of the year. I hope you enjoyed it. Go to playlist, favorite albums by year. And there are 26 videos that you could discover year by year, the best albums from my collection, and it ends with the best ones of the year. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate your loyalty. If you're new, hit subscribe. Why not? And I'll see you next time on the Alan Rosenberg Show.